And we're
And we're
back.
back.
Free the weed
Free
in
the weed in
Texas.
Texas.
So
So
look, we're
look,
gonna
we're
get
gonna get
into
into
some
some
good
good
cannabis
cannabis
news
news
right
right
quick
quick
because we're
because
gonna
we're gonna
talk
talk
about what
about what
Governor
Governor
Greg
Greg
Abbott
Abbott
is
is
urging
urging
Texas
Texas
DAs to
DAs to
do,
do,
which
which
is
is
he's
he's
urging
urging
them
them
against
against
dropping
dropping
marijuana
marijuana
misdemeanor
misdemeanor
charges.
charges.
And
And
so,
so,
of
of
course,
course,
Dallas
Dallas
County
County
District
District
Attorney
Attorney
John
John
Kuzet
Kuzet
fired
fired
back
back
against the
against the
Texas
Texas
governor,
governor,
saying
saying
that he
that
won't
he won't
prosecute people without evidence of their guilt, which I think that is that's what the law is, due process.
Exactly.
And he also sent letters to all the district and county attorneys urging them to uphold their oath and faithfully execute the law. I think that's what they're doing, personally.
Personally,
But we're going to
we're gonna
keep
keep
reading
reading
because
because
not
not
only did
only
he
did he
sign the
sign the
letter
letter
along with
along with
Lieutenant
Lieutenant
Dan
Dan,
Governor
Governor
Patrick,
Patrick,
Speaker
Speaker
Dennis
Dennis
Bonnen,
Bonnen,
Attorney
Attorney
General
General
Ken
Ken
Paxton,
Paxton,
they
they
all
all
still
still
wanted to
wanted to
stand.
stand.
How
How
interesting.
interesting.
What are your thoughts on that, Latanya?
Well, I know one thing that we can't trust Abbott. How can he legalize the delivery of alcohol
Mm.
for restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
that serve mixed drinks and not legalize cannabis?
Right.
This is just one of his moves, to not let our voice be heard,
Right.
So he also sent out letters, to all the district attorneys in Texas, and let them know, listen, you know, um, House Bill 1325 is not legal yet. That's the Freedom for Industrial Hemp,
Mm-hmm.
okay, CBD. So, you know, he's stepping in, he's putting his foot in the door, trying to mess it up for us. But what I'm going to tell you is that listen, DAs, don't
Yes.
listen to him,
Don't do
okay?
it.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep your programs, especially what we have in Houston.
Well, and I think part of it too is there is no way to test. And so, because of that, I agree. Like, why would we be spending money on resources that potentially could be going to other programs like drug rehabilitation? Let's look at let's look at that. Since it's such a problem, then where are those type of services?
Right. Well, right now what's going on is that over $30 million is being spent
Mm-hmm.
on testing these cannabis
Right.
to see if it's legal or not legal at the THC level. And the government, they don't want to pay that,
Right.
So this is the
They want
deep
the states
side
to
of
pay
it,
it. Yeah, they want the states to pay it.
So they're going to find every corner, every way they can try to get out of doing this and make it look illegal, make it look like a bad thing,
Right.
But 80% of Texans right now want this thing.
Yeah, of course they do.
So that's what's up. They're pissed off about that, They're pissed off about the free the weed
And
movement. And it's spreading all over everywhere.
Right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
and it's
So
time. It's time.
it is time.
It is.
So,
We're surrounded by green. Think about it. Oklahoma, well, for the most part, we're surrounded by green. And what's the holdup, Texas? Like,
money.
you think that's what it is?
It's all about the money. Of course, he's getting paid by Big
Oh,
Pharma.
come on
Him
now.
and Lieutenant Governor Dan SOB. That's what I call him. If anybody has followed me on Facebook,
She
you've
doesn't
seen
hide
that.
her words.
Yeah.
But I think too that that's why it's important for us to pay attention to the elections.
Yes.
And we have to start on our local levels. And that is why we have our next guest who is in the studios tonight, Mr. Derek Bros for Mayor of Houston.
Woo!
Welcome.
Let's get happy to
Yeah,
the
thank
house.
you. Listen, I had the pleasure of attending a meeting with you earlier this week, and then, of course, we had a meeting last night. And I love the new initiative that you announced last night on your platform. So first, tell the people who you are, and then tell them about your initiative, and let's get into the juicy details.
All right,
Yes,
let's
yes,
do it.
yes.
Well, thank you again for having me here tonight and for just all the effort that both of you ladies put into to spreading the message about cannabis and, of course, the Free the Weed message. I really appreciate it. My name is Derek Burrows. I'm 34 years old. Been here in Houston my whole life. Is this one working?
It's not, you gotta talk about it.
Been in Houston my whole life. Just in a past life, I was a cook, worked at restaurants, managed restaurants, did all that stuff, and then along the way, took a couple wrong paths, ended up getting hooked on crystal meth and some other things, getting locked up, doing some time in Texas state institutions in 2005, between 2005 2008, and around that time when I got out, I came out as a felon, so I had to figure out how to navigate that whole world now, having another little roadblock
Right.
against me, and just dealing with all that stuff. But it was also just the determination to push through it, like I'm not going back kind of
Right.
mentality. And then in that process of getting not only away from drugs, but getting away from the depression and the things that I was self-medicating for.
Right.
At least for me, a lot of my head drug use was self-medicating, internal trauma and things that I just wasn't ready to deal with.
Right.
So I was able to start digging through that, working on some of my, my own issues, and then starting to understand this. And along with that, it felt like this cloud was lifted, where not only was I getting like sober from all that other crazy stuff, but I felt like I was remembering, like, oh, I like to learn. I want to learn more. I'm starting to enjoy a
Right.
sunset for the first time in my life.
Right.
All this really interesting stuff. And I read a book called Cannabis: A History, because I was going to the library every day. I was living over just north of the Heights a little bit, and I was going to the library over in the Heights every day, applying for jobs and trying to get a better job from this little crappy job I got. And started reading just different books, and I read Cannabis: A History. Is a really awesome book that covers like the sociological impact of cannabis, the history of the plant itself, the science behind it, the legal history of it, everything, and really just opened my eyes to the drug war itself, specifically around cannabis. And as somebody who was getting out, for obviously for a different drug, I was arrested for possession of crystal meth when I was addicted to that, but still part of the drug war. I just stopped after I read this thing, and it was funny. It was the first book I ever voluntarily took notes on, because I was just so like, whoa, there's
Intrigued
so
by it.
much
Wow.
information, so much knowledge, and that was sort of the beginning of me asking questions about everything and saying, well, if I was never, this is not the version of the drugs war that I was told in school. If this is something I was not taught, what else is there? And that kind of began the beginning of just going down those rabbit holes, as they say, and starting to question everything around me. And that was in 2009. 2010, started getting involved in activism, and I've just been involved with various activist groups for the last 10 years. And about 2012, 2013, started getting involved in journalism, both here in the city, going and asking questions to the mayors, to the police chief, questioning them about surveillance issues, questioning them about police violence, questioning them about just whatever's going on in the city that I noticed none of these other people are asking. If you ever go to a local press conference, I realized this really quick when I was real young in my journalism game. I had just this little camera. I'm kind of like maybe a little shy going in there. I had to go up into the police station, and I'm up there, and there's all the local stations with their big cameras, and then I listened to them, and they asked the chief, like, how many arrests were there this week, or how many puppy dogs did you save? All these just softball questions that don't have
There's no real journalism
no,
questions.
and I'm there with my tiny little
Just
camera,
off the
like,
wall.
so I have documents proving that you guys are monitoring the people of Houston illegally. I'm asking these difficult questions. They got to know me real quick. I was pulled aside a couple of times and told, as long as I was a good, respectable journalist, I'd be welcome back.
So,
Right.
So I have a history doing
I have
journalism.
a
and
question,
activism.
how easy was that, to get involved and be able to connect with these people, and have them hear what you have to say?
Honestly, it just took effort. I mean, like most of everything that I've ever done with my activism, it's just taken getting involved, taking steps to actually do something, as opposed to sitting at home and doing nothing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think about that sometimes, how when I see an accomplishment achieved or something, I stop and think like, wow, if I hadn't done anything, if I had just sat at home and been lazy or whatever, well then X, Y, and Z would have never happened. I wouldn't have met this person, or I wouldn't have been able to have this, conversation, or make that connection. So to me, it's just about getting involved, and that's, I think it is important. It really isn't that difficult to get involved this way. All I did was go with my small little camera. That's how I started looking up, when are they holding, press sessions with the chief? What do I got to do to get in there? And just
Right.
going through this whole process, being denied 2 years, told I wasn't a journalist by the city until they finally couldn't,
Couldn't tell you no.
They couldn't tell me no anymore.
Right.
And, just do it. So, my point with all of that is I've got a history in Houston, both as an activist, trying to be a thorn in their side, because that's what I think activism should be, a thorn in
Right.
the side of power.
Yes.
Like, obviously about solutions too, but I love, the way I get my I guess my thrills is I go out and put a camera in the face of local politicians.
Yes,
Or like,
you
or
know,
I've also,
make them see you,
Yeah, make them
hear
talk.
you.
I've
Make 'em
also
talk.
questioned, John Kerry, Rand Paul, George Bush, Henry Kissinger, like all kinds of other people, because it's just become a part of my activism. Like, it's not the only type of journalism I do, but if they come to our city, the way I see it is like, I'm
That's
not just
not-
gonna let them show up without being questioned about
Right.
something real. Like, hey, well, you were accused of this, or you are responsible for this. How do you respond to that? And give them a chance to exercise their voice. Like, hey, where do you stand, instead of just talking, right? So. Anyways, I've been doing that for since 2009, 2010 or so, and most of my activism honestly has focused on what can we do as a community. If I see an issue, something big, national, international, I start thinking, well, what can we do about here locally?
Mhm.
Is there some way that we can take action that's going to give us, I want to give people information as a journalist that also inspires them as an activist to do something. That's
Right.
like, to me, they serve the same goal. Like, I can go out and do the research and do interviews and play that game, put together an article, put together a video report, and then hopefully through that knowledge sharing, people are like, wow, that's going on.
Mhm.
I need to do something about it.
Exactly.
And so that's always been my goal. And what can we do locally? And for the most part, it has always been about, I wouldn't say completely ignoring, but definitely my focus has never been on the political system.
Now, you said something interesting. You want to do something locally. So, what we all want to know is everything is in the mayor's hand. We know that. So, we want to know what you want to do for Houston.
Yes. What are
Yeah,
your
this
plans for
is-
Bring us up.
Houston?
We got communities like Fifth Ward,
Third
Acres
Ward,
Home,
Acres Home, exactly. So
that
what your-
has been left and forgotten.
Yes.
You're right.
Roads,
the
abandoned
firefighters.
lots.
Like, let's talk about all of it.
Yes,
What are
yes,
your
yes.
plans to address City Hall? Because it's one thing to run, but let's get you in the office. And
Yes.
now, what is Derek's plan once he gets in the office?
I got you. So, I appreciate that, and you're absolutely right that there are definitely neighborhoods in Houston, especially the ones you named, Fifth Ward, Third Ward, Acres Home, that have been forgotten in a lot of ways. And those are communities that I want to talk to. And actually, I've made efforts to try to reach out to like the Super Neighborhood Center and Acres Home and elsewhere. So if anybody out there has contacts, like I'm down to come talk. Like let's sit down, let's have a conversation. It doesn't have to be a big event. Let's just get
Right.
to know each other.
Good.
So
Let's plan it. Like, what do we?
Yeah,
let's do
let's
it.
put it
like
Yeah.
that's I want to come. I'm down. Like let's do it. This is because what I want to say before is I haven't put any of my energy into political action as far as voting and electoral politics before, because I find the most value in getting my hands dirty in my community, literally like by building community gardens, urban farms in the Fifth Ward, going out and feeding the homeless and, doing things like that,
Right.
trying to achieve change on the community level. So that's where my focus has been. And I still believe in that. Because I
Right.
think that's us voting every day with our actions, not just once every 2 years or
Correct.
4 years in the ballot box. But now, after doing 10 years of trying these other tactics, being arrested, doing the journal, doing every other form you can think of,
Right.
I figure like it's time to put some energy into getting these messages, at the very least, getting these messages into the race. So
Mhm.
that's the main goal.
I
But I
was trying to
definitely
see
have
where
some
you're
big
going. You
ideas.
want to get people out there and get them moving.
Get them moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
We're trying
them
to build a movement.
advocating for whatever they stand for, whatever they
Yeah.
believe in. I love it.
Yeah, but you know what? And I like when you give empower. You have to empower the people, but in order, for me, empowering also means giving them the resources
Yeah.
that we know they need. So it's one thing to say, but what's the do action? Like, where's the do part? Because that right now is what.
That's what matters.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's really
sure.
what matters.
Yeah, ideas are great, and they're necessary to move us forward. But if they don't play out in reality, then they're just ideas on paper. Like I agree with you.
Right.
So, like you said, what happens if I get elected? Well, we'll go through some of these ideas in a moment. But as far as addressing the fact that there are communities that are left behind, that's one of the main reasons that I'm even inspired to run in the first place. If there's two main things that everything that we're going to cover tonight sort of stems from, is that I have a desire to amplify the voice of Houstonians, not to speak for anybody, because I don't want to do that and I can't do that,
Mhm.
but just to say like, okay, I think I have the mind and the skills to be in this particular race where I feel confident being on the debate stage or forum stage with any of these other people and being able to run circles around. And that's not like trying to be, anything other than real. I feel confident about that I can help amplify the concerns of people. And the other thing is to expose corruption. Like, I want to expose all the corruption that I've seen as a journalist and as an activist, and use this mayor's platform, not because I don't want to win, but because to me, winning is not just winning in the ballot box. That winning is if people get more involved in their communities. Winning is if people take these ideas and run with them. Winning is exposing corruption and getting more people to care.
Okay. So when we get back, we're going to talk to you about how do you deal with the naysayers you know, because you mentioned last night how you're one of the millennials in the race. And then we're also going to talk about your initiative that you brought forward last night. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Derrick Broze for Mayor of Houston. Miss
Yes.
Latanya Whittington sitting in
Free
with me
the weed,
tonight. Free the
free the
weed.
weed.
Yes, and we'll be right back. Awesome sauce.
You live on your page too?
Oh yeah. Well, I think I got you.
So guys, tonight we have Mr. Derrick Broze for mayor.
Hey, hello, guys.
Look, everyone. Listen, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and give us those messages. We also have Miss Latanya Whittington.
Hey, I'm the co-host tonight.
She's my co-host tonight. She's
What's
just
up? Just call me Green Sparkles.
She ready. She came in the party.
I got
There's a difference tonight.
I
She
mean,
brought a
look,
sun
she
glass.
has on, so I gotta have
Yes.
something.
We do not own the rights to this music, but
No,
we're
we
gonna show
don't.
jam to it. Yes. Free to leave in Texas.
Oh.
Listen, so tonight I will not.
Listen to my girl.
I will not be doing the whole show from my phone tonight because I don't want to. I want you guys to go to Texas.
That's our only
www.texas101jams.com.
Tune in.
Tune in. Texas101jams.com.
And that is true.
And we're going to give y'all some more news because
You
guess
know,
what?
live
She
streaming
wants to
all
run for
shows
mayor.
tonight.
So I think it's time we ask those questions for people who want to run for office. Let's be answers.
And just
So
get
listen.
on there and listen to me and my girlfriend and Chris, and we got Derrick. So what's up? Feel free to wait. Did you have fun last night?
I had an amazing time. Thanks to everybody with Candace for came out last night. It was great, and she's amazing. She was working.
Thank you so much. And listen, tomorrow, I want to thank you so much for yesterday. Well, listen, we're going to be having it. But anyway, she was awesome. You know, she was like, backbone, you know, she helped me with everything yesterday. We had over 40 people last night at the meeting. Thank you so much for everybody who came out and supported the freeway. Thank you, R1CG, for supplying us with the That's what's up. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. It was great. All right, so peace out, y'all. Check it, all
Kayla.
right?
Kayla,
Either way.
you need to be where you can see me here. It's your dad. So when we come back in, we're gonna talk about the
They have you, so we'll go into that after they do one.
Houston and the next state.
Well, listen, I know you have a whole list of everything. But make sure you mention about the spring.
Oh yeah, they have Houston all. Give the refund.
Make sure you mention about the spring.
Great about the weapons. Oh, planning ahead, talking about
Yeah, on the body, I like that idea.
Yeah, I'm
We're gonna turn it.
sure some of mine gonna be real. Ah!
That's what I'm saying. If we get out of the way, then
Nature do its thing.
what's it?
Yep, nature will do its thing. Yeah, nature will do its thing.
You know what? I'm gonna say it on here, but don't be surprised. You know, there's a lot of people following you, like, what you doing, you know, come on.
Well, like I said, we're closing our
5 seconds.
I'm gonna be in 8 of the forum, so yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen.
There's more of us than them.
I agree. Like somehow,
I'll say it on
make
here.
my job off the floor, and then we'll get to work.
Well, you got some people that support you already, so don't forget about
25
that.
seconds.
We're all gonna do it.
Oh, where was you last night?
10,
Oh.
7, 5,
My
4,
freedom wing wasn't
3,
there. What
2,
happened?
1.
And I just realized right now.
So
My girl was
listen.
there with me last night. Oh, thank you so much. I just want to say
Oh, you're
to
welcome.
to the Empress. She was my
Yes.
100 last night, guys. Let me
Yeah.
tell you.
You know, I got you.
We had a lot of people show up. It
Yes,
was
we
about
did.
40, 50 people there.
It was like the most
And
I've seen at
Yes.
one of your meetings. It was a lot of people.
yes,
It was a good turnout.
You know,
Yeah.
people are standing up right now, and you helped me hold it down, babe.
Girl, I got you.
And I just want to say I love you.
Mwah.
Thank you.
Yes. So back to you, Derek. Do tell.
All right, what do we want to get into?
Well, let's talk about your initiative. Let's talk about your
Hemp
initiative.
Houston. Hemp
Yes.
Houston. All
Talk
right.
about
Hemp
Hemp
Houston.
Hashtag Hemp
Really?
Houston.
Hashtag Hemp Houston.
All right, so let me lay it out for you. This is, for one, anybody who wants to find out more about the campaign, just go to DerrickBroze.com. That's DerrickBroze. And I have a blog written about this that kind of breaks it down in more detail, sort of like I did last night. But the main 4 parts of Hemp Houston, and the goal of this is really really just to transform Houston and
Right.
to create multiple industries around cannabis, hemp, CBD, and also really changing the landscape, the physical landscape, as well as addressing some of those issues that you were talking about before. There are people who are concerned about the firefighters, and are the firefighters going to be able to get paid what people want them to get paid and what the city
Right.
voted for? Are we going to have money to help with flooding? Is there going to be ways to reduce crime? To me, this plan hits up most of those ways in an indirect way,
Right.
by bringing cannabis as the focal point of it. So the main 4 points, the kind of 4 steps that we're going to do. The first step is to end the drug war in Houston, and the way we do that is, as mayor, I would immediately say, for one, the mayor gets to pick a police chief. The mayor.
Oh,
can-
let's talk about that.
So the mayor can decide who gets to
Adrian
be
Garcia.
police chief of
That's the guy now.
Of Harris County or
the city of Houston.
HPD?
Of the city of
Okay,
Houston.
yeah. So clarify
Okay,
that because
yeah.
when you say the mayor gets to pick the police chief, clarify of what agency.
of the Houston Police Department.
Okay.
yeah.
of
That's what we
HPD.
think.
Yeah,
you're
which is
talking
city owned.
about.
Yeah, so obviously, so the mayor is the city, and we got the sheriffs and those as well. The mayor has the ability to assign a new chief of police for HPD once they come into office. So for me, a requirement for anybody that would be considering would be somebody who's going to put no effort, the lowest priority, not even on the priority list for cannabis and prosecuting those, even pursuing those, because
Right,
we already have a
okay.
DA that's taking a step back and saying, as you guys were talking a few moments
Yes,
ago,
yes.
the DA is already backing off. So
Right.
if you have the mayor setting the tone in the way of saying, we're going to decriminalize cannabis, we're not going to pursue it anyway, I'm going to assign a police chief who's going to initiate that policy for the department. So you stop stop arresting people for that. So we start ending the drug war in Houston. Another part of that, though, is we can't, in my belief, we can't just decriminalize and stop there. There are people who are already, what some would say, victims of the drug war, who are still locked up
Uh-huh.
Right.
behind cannabis charges
Right.
and other nonviolent drug charges. So I think anybody who is a citizen of Houston, was arrested in the Houston city limits, and who is in the Texas criminal justice system for cannabis-related charge, as long as it's a non-violent, didn't involve some kind of violent
Right.
crime, it's just a cannabis charge. And I'm saying whether you had 2 grams or 500 pounds,
Uh-huh.
to me, there's no, I don't really see a difference. I mean, we could look at each case,
So
basically.
you're saying these people can be,
Yeah.
let
Be
out of
retroactively
jail,
released for,
expunge
as
their
we've been seeing,
records.
expunge the record. I mean,
So that's what you're saying. You can
But-
actually get this done.
in the city of Houston, you can do the same. We just saw thousands of prisoners start to be released today on the federal level behind a federal law that was passed. We could do something similar for the city of Houston. Obviously, we'd be limited to just those limits. So, like I said, if you were arrested in the city of Houston limits, you're a resident of Houston, I think then, yeah, let's get those people out of jails, whether that means county jail or hopefully, people.
So
in
what do you
state
say?
prisons.
Okay, so let's talk about those naysayers who
Okay.
say, Derek, that's absurd. That don't even sound like. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work because now you're just telling people who have marijuana that they can just do what they want with the drug, right? Because that would be what a naysayer would say, correct?
And I'd say you're right. I am telling people they should be free to do what they want and to put in their body as long as they're not causing harm to another free human being.
Free the weed.
I believe in living in a way where we have all of our relationships are voluntary, consensual. We talk a lot about consent these days. We talk about my body, my choice. To me, the reason that matters is because we each own ourselves. I really believe in self-ownership, and this is important to the reason I believe in decriminalizing cannabis and every one of the other issues, because I don't believe, as long as, if you're out there living your life, I have no right to tell you to try to make you conform to what I think you should be. You know, so I might not like
Your
what you
body,
eat,
your choice.
what you, who
Mhm.
you date, how you love, what you're into, whatever.
Right.
But I have no right to come use force against you, and I don't think I have the right to say, hey, government, force them to live the way I want. Don't smoke cannabis or don't do this.
Right.
So I, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's really an issue of following the golden rule, really, that we've all been taught since we were kids, that, you know, to not initiate harm against other people or treat other people the way you want to be treated. And when I see people whose lives, and again, as somebody who's been in prison for drugs and got out and had to make that struggle of, you get out and you got a drug test every other, you have a call this number every day. You do not have to report for it tomorrow. You got to make 2 meetings of this kind every week, 2 meetings of this. You either be in school full time or have a full time job. If you can't make it, don't worry, we'll send you back. The system is set up to fail, and people are getting into that system behind weed.
So let me ask you this then. That be the case. Then how do we help people who have been charged and cannot find housing, cannot get drugs? I mean, cannot find housing.
Yeah.
Okay, they cannot get a job because their job now it requires them to work 8 hours. But like you said, you got to go in, test. You got to take this class. You got to do this. So what is the balance? Because there has to be some type of flexibility within that space to allow people to get back into society
Yeah.
and not be a victim of recidivism.
Okay,
Like, because
right,
eventually, if you keep pushing a person, like you said, it's only a matter of time before you miss one meeting.
Right.
Or you miss something, or something else happens.
And it's
then
gonna go
and
against
it-
you,
Exactly.
you know, and then everything after that just downfall.
Correct.
You know?
I've said it before in the past that as far as I'm concerned, probation is a scam and parole is just a leash. Because these things,
Well,
I mean, I'm just being real about it. As somebody who's been on both of them and
Mhm.
been
Yeah.
locked up and come out on parole, and like, you know, I think that it's possible to be able to succeed. I have a small but loving family, but when I got out, I didn't ask anybody to try to. I didn't look for help from me. I just, I had to
Right.
catch 2 buses this way, do all this crazy stuff. There's a lot of hard people who do work to make it happen when they get out because they got no support systems.
Right.
And sometimes you can do it, and I did it. Other people have, but sometimes you can't, and it's
Right.
difficult. And you might have a parole officer, probation officer who might work with you. You might have a judge who understands, but you might not. And then you
Right.
get sent back, and then you're dealing with the whole thing over and over. And absolutely, people get out, and if you don't have those support systems, it is very difficult to
Mhm.
even just
And
get your
support.
foot.
It is,
It's
right.
been 15 years since I was locked up, and I still can't get an apartment. And like, it's take I'm in like one apartment I'm in right now because I got turned down by all kinds of other places when I tried
Right.
to move because of a felony that's 15 years old.
Right.
And so I know exactly how this feels for people, and that's
Yes,
why I was saying
it's
as far as
hard.
expunging records, and I mean a real expunge where it's not going to come up on somebody's job history or any of these kind of
And
things.
yes.
So we end the drug where we decriminalize cannabis. We let people out who are been locked up behind cannabis for nonviolent, what I consider victimless charges. And then we start taking these steps towards ending the drug war in the city, and I think that can go a long way. There you go. You start saving more money. We already know with the diversion program, they
Right.
saved $35 million in 2 years. What happens
Yes,
if you go
yeah.
further
Yeah.
than that?
Right.
All of a sudden you got a lot of extra money for those firefighters, for those roads, and for every other thing
Right.
people are worried about. And you're not ruining people's lives. You're not locking people up in that. And I think that because we're moving the direction of the recent bills, the writing's on the wall that cannabis is coming.
Oh, yeah,
Houston
it's
has the
there.
chance
Yeah,
to be,
it's
not only a place where
It's
people
no doubt
we don't
about
lock
that.
people up anymore, which is a beautiful thing, but also as far as the economic boom, if you want, I can continue on the plan. It's the 4
Yeah,
points.
so
Mhm. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to ask you about the firefighters,
Sure,
but let's
Well,
Yeah,
hear
give
some
me-
more
I'm
about
sorry,
your
yeah.
plans. You know,
I'll try to move a little
Because
quicker.
yeah.
This next part, though, I think that people seem to be enjoying it so far. To me, it's it's tackling an issue that is important to Houstonians that I know matters, but I also think there's some simple answers. And sometimes, from my perspective, these local elections, the reason we have such a low voter turnout is because every time they just got the same people who all look the same. The websites look like they're made by the same person, the same
It's
brand.
a copycat.
They're
That's
using
true.
slogans
Yeah.
from 2010 and
He's telling the
2000,
truth.
early 2000s. It's not exciting anybody. It's not getting anybody
Right.
interested.
Right.
And so I'm trying to come in and talk about real issues and tackle those
Right.
traditional issues,
Reach
but
the
from
real
a
people.
new standpoint. So part of that, so we end the drug war is part of Hemp Houston. The second part is what I call the Bayou cleanup. And so again, creating volunteer programs, working with groups that already exist, like Buffalo Bayou Partnership, which, by the way, if anybody wants to come join tomorrow, 8:30 to 11:30 a.m., me and some people from the campaign, we're going to be going volunteer to clean up the bayou. This will be our
Okay.
second time. Because again, I don't want to just speak about something when if I'm not going to put my hands in the dirt and go out there and be on the pavement myself with everybody else. So if I'm going to talk about
Right.
something, I want to be out there. So we're going to start creating more volunteer programs to clean up not only the trash and the waste from the bayou, which is just piling up. They're pulling out.
Mm.
I saw the Buffalo Bayou Partnership said something a couple weeks ago that they pull out every weekend 900 pounds of trash out of the bayou, which is
Trash, cars, bodies.
like
I mean, we can
if you
just keep going.
litter in the city, of Houston,
Exactly.
Seriously, like it's
just an FYI to anybody who doesn't know, because I didn't know this till recently. I mean, I knew it was important, but if you litter anywhere in the city or something drops out, it's gonna make its way, onto the street, which makes its way to the drainage eventually once it rains, and that all makes its way to the bayou. That's where it's
right.
gonna go. That's
Yep.
why it looks the way it does. So just think
And
about
stank.
that. So we start cleaning up the bayou, right? Not only cleaning up the waste and the trash, but there are some reports that there are hundreds of vehicles in the bayou as well, which I know
Yes.
are all of that's contributing to why it floods so
Right.
easily.
Yeah.
So
Let's
actually
clean
start
it
making an
up.
effort to
Let's
clean up the
clean it
bayou, beautifying the city, and this is what we were talking about earlier. Along
Yes.
with that, we start planting hemp all along the bayou.
Woo!
Yeah, I'm really
Free
stoked
the
about.
hemp.
Free the hemp,
Free the hemp.
Free the weed.
So one of the things about hemp is it's a very hardy crop. It grows pretty quickly
Yes,
and it
it-
drinks a lot of water.
Yes, it
and
does.
it can grow very fast. And when we talked to the Buffalo Bayou Partnership, they said one of the problems with planting trees and things along the bayou, because they've tried to do this to help with erosion and flooding, is that it's just so sandy and kind of it's just not very strong down there
Right.
that the plants will get washed away before they can establish roots. So we need something that can grow quick and fast and put roots in, and hemp really fits the bill along
Yes,
with maybe
it does.
bamboo and some other crops. So I'm talking about planting hemp all along the bayou. We come out as a city, plant hemp seeds all over
let's
all
do
over
Help
the
it.
bayou.
Houston.
I love it
Yeah,
already,
hemp.
guys.
So we clean up the bayou. We start planting hemp and other crops that are going to help drink the water, help with the flooding,
Right.
help with the erosion around that. So then
No,
you're
because
hitting that issue.
we will have the water. That's
Yes,
for
that's gonna
sure.
come.
It's gonna, and so
Uh-huh.
we know it's gonna come. So unless we're all gonna leave the city, which is already below sea level, then we need to start figuring out realistic solutions. And I don't think just these. What I see from other candidates, and I don't like to talk too much about bashing other people, but what I see from typical politicians, because I'm not a politician, I think that's
Mhm.
clear, is that they just want to throw money at things.
Right.
Create a new program, a new department, a new whatever.
And here you go.
And to me, it's like sometimes the solutions are right there. You just we got to come together and do it.
Right.
So that's the second part, the Bayou Cleanup Initiative. The third part to me is also important, and just what we're calling vote with your dollar. And that idea, the idea of voting with your dollar, many people have heard about it on the kind of individual level. If you don't
Right.
like McDonald's, or you don't like Walmart or Monsanto or whatever whoever you don't like their business practice, for example,
Right.
they're racist, they're bigoted, they contribute to stuff you don't like. You don't
You
shop
have that
there.
shop. Exactly. You, quit
take
going.
your money from them. You use your voting power as an individual and as a consumer. So I live by that, and I think that it's important for us to think in that principled way of all of our actions we take. The way, the relationships we have, where we spend our money, how we make our money, all that stuff. And I think as a city, we should apply that as well. And so one of the steps I want to do once we come into office is to end any contracts that the city of Houston currently has with companies that are responsible for environmental disasters.
So let me ask you this, because one of my questions, especially being in the cannabis industry, is what the city will not allow outside companies or agencies to come in when you can utilize local resources for these city contracts, especially involving hemp or even Texas-based companies.
Yeah.
So what will you do to make sure or ensure that at least you're using Texas resources when it comes to your initiatives
Great
in regards to
question.
hemp? Because, Denver's been going, Colorado's been up,
Colorado.
California's been up.
Cali.
But what are you going to do to make sure that Texas dollars stay in Texas?
So I think that's a good question, because I also always try to think about getting as local as possible. When I'm
Mhm.
going out and we're looking for CBD for medicinal purposes, I'd like to buy from a Houston, an entrepreneur from Houston if possible, and if not, maybe somebody
Call
in
me.
Austin or
I have
something.
www.tamarbibbs.wakanda.com.
So for me, the same thing applies if I'm mayor and we're talking
Right.
about so the Vote with Your Dollar campaign, the whole idea is we move away from businesses that are unsustainable, have shady business practices, or just people or individuals or companies we don't want necessarily to be associated with. Because to me, it's a big smack in the face to see the official 4th of July event or the official different city events sponsored by a company like BP. And this is no disrespect to anybody who works in oil and gas, which I realize is a lot of people, but don't freak out yet. We got a plan to move away from the oil and gas to go towards something a little more sustainable. But to me, I do think that it's, again, a smack in the face in the city of Houston and this beautiful, environment that we have, and the planet itself, which I love and care about and will fight for, that we have companies like BP, which is responsible for this, Gulf spill right here in the Gulf of Mexico,
Mhm.
right off, from Louisiana, where a lot of our families and friends are. and that's still tearing up the ocean there. You know, you probably shouldn't
Right.
eat anything. That's why it's a joke about don't go to Galveston and swim in Galveston because we got all this stuff in there. So why in the heck is the city signing contracts and partnering with a company like that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, like you said,
So
it comes down
we
to
focus
the
on
ching-ching.
locally. Exactly, it's all about the money.
That dollar
But the
bill.
thing is, there's a lot of money in the city, and that's what I don't understand is there are a lot of entrepreneurs who want to get involved, who would love to work with the city on different things, and also through my work prior to going into this election, you know, I've got connected with different companies based in the U.S. and elsewhere who are involved in permaculture and hemp, you know, hemp farming and working, like for example, one company with acai superfruits that are grown by indigenous communities in Brazil, like going and working with them. Like there are companies who would love to come to Houston, set up shop and get involved here that don't have that kind of track record. And to me, that's important. Again, is setting a tone for the rest of the city and what we could do. So we vote with your dollar. We move away from those kind of companies, but we also shift towards hemp as a fuel, hemp for plastic.
Biomass.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and start looking at that because that's new and developing research, and we've got this great medical center here. We could start
Okay.
redirecting resources towards cannabis, medicinal cannabis
Yeah,
research.
well,
And
they
you know
would
what?
need the
Especially with us having
education.
MD Anderson, right? Like we have some
Exactly.
of the medical center here in Houston is one of the best medical centers
Yes.
People
ever.
come from
and
all over the world.
all
to
Yeah,
come
over
here.
the
they come
world
here
to come
to
here
get
for cancer treatment and
cancer and everything
stumpers
else,
me
a
that
lot
they
of
have
things.
not. I'm sure they're doing. Somebody in there is doing the research on it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure of it. I know they have to be because
Well,
you cannot. No, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because you also have to understand when federal dollars are being poured into something, there is only so much that you could do with federal. You understand
Well, what we
what I'm
could do,
saying?
what I think we could
So-
do is, let's say
I get
if we identify the city of Houston and MD Anderson or any of the hospitals, because there's a lot of them, have
Right.
we have certain contracts, so the city funds this program or this. Well, with all this extra money that we're saving from not locking people up and putting them in the drug war, we start directing some of those resources and telling the hospitals like, hey, we're going to give a certain amount of money, but it has to be specifically for cannabis
Well, let's start with the
research.
education of the doctors
Yes,
because
they
that's going to be the
need
main
to be
thing when it
educated,
comes to
right.
when it comes to this plant being used for medicinal purposes. It has to come with the education of the
Yes.
doctors. It has to come with the staff. Because even last night when we were at your event, one of the
Yeah.
ladies said that had she not known about CBD herself, she would not have been able to let the doctor know that because this patient was taking medication that, you know, like warfarin, along with CBD, that
And it
it's not a
wasn't
good, and
going
exactly.
well together.
So, and that's where
So
it's
that's what we
important
need
to
the education.
education.
We're
definitely at
is
that phase
So
of-
important.
So are you thinking about, you know, having a program where everyone can get an education for it, like having a specific class, you know, for these people in the medical center?
You know, I'm absolutely open, obviously, to educational efforts, and as you know, one of the other things I hadn't mentioned yet, but let's say we divert some of these funds towards medical research, towards educating. Like, the reality is that most people who are in elected office, not just on the local level, but all around the country, seem to be from a completely different generation where they're still watching movies from 1940 and think that, you know, it's reefer madness in here or
Yeah,
something. Or,
you know.
you know, there's a tide
Reefer
changing, but there's still, I
madness.
think, a huge educational effort that needs, like, let's just say the city
Yes.
council we have right now, I don't think they're all as necessarily aware as they could be. And why is that important? Well, it's important because if these people are going to be making any sort of legislation on the local or
Yes.
whatever level, passing ordinances, then they should know something about this plant and also start to respect it as a medicine and as a you know, I think as a recreational activity as well, that we need to just move away from the stigma, and that's only going to happen with education.
Mhm.
So we have
I
to
agree.
put efforts into that. And I think also putting some of those funds towards actually, for those who do have real addictions, actually putting some funds towards that as well, because that's important. I know there's some folks who hear this and they think, oh, there's going to be drug addicts all over the streets and whatever. We could create programs that actually do address that.
Crazy.
But, yeah.
Well, so why don't you go ahead and sum it up, you know,
Sure.
and I do have a big question. So why don't you go
Well,
ahead and
we
sum
can
up
let him wrap it up
everything?
when he got. We got.
Well,
we can-
okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I want to know.
Go ahead.
You
I
got
wanna
a lot
know.
of things going on, and you know we hear about your plan, and we hear about what you want to do, but we also want to know about the person. You
Yes.
know, your personality, a little bit about your family, and you know, just basically things you like to do, and you know, just kind of give us some insight.
Yeah, who's the mayor? Who
Yeah,
is the mayor, Derek Bros?
Who's the mayor?
Who's the mayor? That's a good question.
You
Who's
know,
the mayor?
the interesting thing about all this kind of work is it's sometimes hard to separate, you know, I guess the quote unquote work from like who I am as an individual, because this is all I do. I mean,
Right.
And my daily activities involve making video reports, writing articles, traveling to other places to write articles and report on things, organizing things for this campaign. And when it wasn't a campaign, organizing things in the community, working with other activists. This is just what I do.
Right.
It's how, and I've been able to. I don't spend a lot of money. I don't make a lot of money. I don't have a lavish lifestyle, so I'm able to live at a comfortable place for me, where I don't have to work all the time. I can commit myself, or my work is these things. You know?
Right,
It started
right,
to turn
right.
into it where I can do that. I've been able to travel this country twice now and do 2 speaking tours and speak to people from all over the country. You know, all different races, ages, backgrounds, and this is just. I don't know, I guess it's just the thing
Where's
that
your
makes me
head?
happy.
You know, where do you represent?
What's your hood is?
What's
What's
your
your-
hood?
I've lived in the 5th
What's
ward
your
for the last
number?
3
Oh,
or
your
4
number's
years.
5.
Number
yeah.
5.
Hey,
what's your hood? Rip your hood.
You know, push your bill and stuff like that.
Well, we're
you
gonna
know.
go to a quick commercial
All right.
break, and we're gonna come right back with Derek Bros for Mayor of Houston.
Mayor
This is the
of
Emerald
Houston.
Empress with my co-host, Miss Latanya
Free the weed.
Whittington. So, yeah. Good
Let's
job.
take
So
it
we'll come back and we'll
for
go,
the
yeah. Good conversation. Good conversation. Yeah. Thank you. Because you tell me stuff. My main thing is big contracts coming in here trying to take over.
Yeah, it's very concerned
No,
about
I think that's part of the whole campaign is that they get donations from certain companies. The next thing they get contracts as soon as they come into office.
Yep.
That's why I think that as far as like the main challenge with the mayor at this point is Tony Busby, and he's trying to paint himself as some kind of outsider. But this guy,
Yeah, oh God.
he raised $500 million
He's
for
horrible.
Trump. He was a lawyer for Rick Perry. You know, he's connected to all these people.
I'm just saying.
Oh, good.
Turn me off.
Hey, y'all. What y'all think about this conversation? What do y'all think? Are we doing a good job? Are we answering
Give us thumbs up, but the meat face. Meat face. What's up? This your girl Tanya.
Trying to make it, bro.
What that means, see, I'm a gangster. Always got my mind on my green, and I'm a gangster. Always go do what I gotta do. Unless it's giving game to police or selling out of proof. Gangsters keep it trio. A gangster do what crime, he do his time on the Rio. A gangster don't squeal and tell on everyone he know. Put a jacket on you, boy, you ain't a gangster, you's a hoe. God, put a nigga on his feet when they home. Never turn his back on the real homie. That's a well-known fact that call me the hood superstar and I'm a gangster. Riding in my candy paint and come to see a gangster. Always down to rip police hood. Had to do a little dance so I could do a little good. Don't forget where he came from. No matter where he go or where he been. Keep the gangster to the end cause I'm a gangster. And I'ma always love my city. Make money but don't act like I'm above my city. Always get back to the ghetto. And gangsters will never turn it back to the ghetto. That's a fact in the ghetto. It's never been a lie. So I'ma
say it's an age or something. Somebody needs to be supposed to be there.
Yeah, I'm putting down there.
That's so cute. I didn't even know what you were talking about. Actually, I thought you was good. He freed the weed. I don't know. I'm like, I missed you. I missed you wrong
Good
too.
job, Taylor. Thank you.
I missed you. I missed you. Happy when you called in. We got
You know, I
that
didn't know
was
he
Jerome with that shit though. He was like, let's call. We gonna
But see,
tell her.
we was live, and then, you know what, we gotta get him like this tonight.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes, call him because he did y'all. Sure. This is my new best friend, y'all there. From Mayor.
From Mayor.
I gotta hit this.
2 minutes.
Oh, we got.
Alright, so we're gonna come back and then we're gonna let you close down and then we'll do what we got some commercials and ads and we'll do that. And then we'll come in and take them from
We'll do that anyway once you wrap up. Thank you again. Hey, and I was just telling her, I think she's got it this time. Okay, I was telling her, my show is on KPSP on 9.1 Fridays from 3 to 4. So I want to have both of you guys on at some point and we can talk about
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the Sad Show is 94.
Now come on, when we was
Oh, and
Fridays from 3 to 4.
Mr. Derek, when you get ready for your when you run for mayor, you will.
Hey, I'm ready.
When what?
He will need a suit. So you have a
You know,
custom
set me up over here. Okay, cool. I'm ready to keep. I'm
You ready?
ready to get fitted.
Oh yeah, there you go. He's custom.
Yes, when you win.
Make sure you follow
When
online.
everything goes wrong. We still
Yeah,
keep
this
it
is
dressed
Derek.
up for the night.
Okay, trust me.
Are you gonna be working a program?
All right, that's what
Donation night.
34.
So just decline when we reach out.
Woo! Make sure my voice is ready.
Okay, I was gonna ask.
25.
I wanted to know about the firefighters and talk about it a little bit. I'm gonna tell you what I heard.
19.
We're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna let him do that and then yeah, wrap it up so we can get the next.
15.
So no,
We'll do it and then
you wrap your thing up.
5.
Oh,
4.
3. Yeah.
Free the weed.
Free the weed. I like that. You know, my husband periodically just bursts out with it.
Like, right. You know,
Or no less at home, and when he does it, I just bust out laughing because it's so you. Like, it's so you.
Tanya's like in the area. I'm in the house.
It's so you. It's like you just pop up in our house for no reason. Like,
Free the weed. Free the weed in Texas. Free the weed.
okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, so look, go back real quick to the firefighters because we had some people had questions about how you plan to fix that problem because I feel, me personally, that we should not be laying off firefighters. That's my personal opinion,
I
so
agree
please
with you.
do discuss.
Did you have something about the
Well,
firefighters
yeah.
you wanted to
Also,
share?
I found out that they really wasn't supposed to be on the poll when we voted, but they put themselves on there, and Mayor Turner was like, "Okay, let them do it." You know, he didn't think that they were going to win.
Wow.
But those firefighters were out there because, see,
Yeah.
I'm a precinct chair, so I would go to the voting areas. They were out there in their firefighter suits, signed the petition, guys. They did some real advocating.
Let me tell you something. People know who to call
Yes.
when their house is on fire.
And Mayor Turner was surprised that they won.
Yeah.
So he's saying that it was against the rules. So,
Well,
you know, what's up with all that?
So, you know, I've been following the Proposition B, the firefighter, and I've talked to firefighters as well. It seems like there's some kind of history between the firefighters and the mayor. Obviously, they've got things going on where they're not really they're not too friendly, basically. But I think what it comes down to at the end of the day, like you said, I don't want to see firefighters getting fired, and the people of Houston who voted in favor of passing that. So as far as I'm concerned,
Yes, they did.
the city, one way or another, needs
And
to
he
figure
didn't
out a way to
know
make
that
that
was gonna
happen. And like you said,
Right.
it wasn't expected, so maybe
No.
they didn't think it was anything to worry about. Well, I've had a chance to go to the press conferences and ask the mayor, Mayor Sylvester Turner, to his face and say, hey, Mr. Mayor, have you had a chance to look into the budget? Is there any program, is there any department where we could,
Cut
save some
funds,
money,
right,
cut funds
right.
to go to the firefighters? And he told me, we're scraping the bucket. But I think that even just in, the little bit of the Hemp Houston plan that we laid out here, decriminalizing cannabis, opening for medical research, for recreational,
Right.
putting hemp, creating a new industry on all that. I mean, that's tons of economic money that the city could get involved in, and that individuals that just could transform the city. That is just one part of what I'm talking about.
If you look at sustainability
Yeah.
in all of those things that you're talking about initiating, if you just look at the sustainability of that also along with that, I mean long term, you're talking about something that's going to take care of itself essentially.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this plan has a financial aspect to it. There's financial gain to be made. There's the moral aspect of not locking people in jail
Correct.
for buying
Yes,
cannabis.
Correct.
And also there's the
Free to
environmental
weed.
aspect that goes along with this.
Right.
It's going to help the environment. It's going to help flooding. It could reduce crime. And yeah, you will have an abundance of funds that
That's
could
why
go
it's called the
towards
perfect flower.
paying the firefighters. Yeah, exactly. The perfect flower. The perfect flower. And so this is called Hemp Houston. I just want to say again, thanks for having me on. Anybody who wants to
Yes.
learn about the campaign, and there are 8 or 9 other main issues that I'm talking about. They're all listed on the website. We're putting out every week. We're putting out these 1 to 2 minute short videos that just break down what the issues are, what I'm talking about, real simple for people to understand. So those are all at DerekRose.com. We've got some blogs explaining Hemp Houston more. We're gonna have lots of events coming up. I definitely do want to talk to people from the 5th Ward and 3rd Ward. We're talking about putting together a cannabis forum.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna
did.
need all
I'm gonna be around. I'm not
candidates to
going
reach
anywhere.
We're
out
not going
to us.
nowhere.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be in 8
We're
of the
all working
forums, 8 of the
together,
debates.
the three of us.
That's good.
Yeah.
So tell the people how they can follow you, tell the people how they can get in touch with you, and give us all the information, your social media
Gotcha.
handles
Yes,
and
yes,
everything.
how we can watch
Hey,
those
well, look,
videos, all the great
The
stuff.
easiest way to get in touch with me is 713-909-0382. That's the campaign number. It goes right to me. You can call, you can text, you can leave a message. Tell me. People have been reaching out and saying, hey, what do you feel about this? How do you think about this? That's what I want. I want to talk to
Right.
people. I want to see what people's concerns are. Because, again, I'm not a politician. I'm not trying to act like electing me is going to fix all our problems or something. That's what they want people to believe, is that
Right.
somebody's going to come change everything. I'm just trying to say we can work together. And if you want to do that, reach out to me, 713-909-0382. You can go to DerekBros.com. On Facebook, it's Derek Bros for Mayor of Houston. We're on Instagram. We got a YouTube channel. We got a Twitter account as well, I believe somebody's helping out with. And we got a growing team of volunteers who are really helping make this happen. And
Yes, I was gonna ask how many people is on your campaign team right now.
I'd say we've got about 8 or 10 people that are coming we have volunteer meetups every other week, and
Mhm.
they're coming
That's great.
and that grows with every event we had. Like last
Right.
night, we met a lot of new people who were interested.
Yes, they
and
were.
so
Yeah.
I expect we're gonna get more and
Yeah,
more
you
people
stay
coming.
to the end.
I love talking to people because everybody gets to share what they, something I might have said and how it resonated with them or connected
Right,
with them,
right,
and
right,
we can
right.
make that, because that's what I want. More than anything, again, more than I want to be elected or tell people to go vote for me. I want to connect with people in the city that I've grown up in, that I live in, and see how we can work together to change things.
Derek Bros for mayor for Houston.
Let's do it. Let's do
Listen.
it. Hemp
You may not agree with
Houston!
everything, but if you agree with something, like let them know. We don't have to agree with everything that a politician or a non-politician is
expect
running
that.
for a
That's
political
right.
space. But we don't have to agree with everything, and that's okay because
Absolutely.
that's what you just said. That's our freedom. But if anything he has said resonates with you, if
Right.
anything he said even sounds like something that you can stand behind, like support. It's
Yes.
not. Listen. The same way you can hit the down button, you can hit the up button.
Right,
Yeah,
just
the
get
The same way you can
involved.
hit the share button and the tag button if it's something that's bad. Just share
All
the
of that helps.
information.
All that helps.
Get
All of that
involved.
helps.
One
Get
last thing I'll
involved.
mention is we're about
Yes.
to have a whole bunch of yard signs, so people want to come pick up yard signs and represent that way. Find us on social media. We're going to be putting those out around the city. You're about to
Cool.
start seeing the Bros for Mayor campaign all over the
Bros for Mayor, BROZE. Bros.
That's what it
Derek
is.
Bros
Thank
for
you
Mayor.
so
Thank
much.
you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it's
Texas
part of
Mobile
the
Jam.
Welcome to the
family
Green
now,
Dog Lounge.
right?
And we'll be
Free
right
the
back.
weed.
Thank you.
that was
So
awesome.
awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we come back
Time
and
goes by when you're having fun.
Thank you
That was
so
great. I
much.
appreciate
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll
So you want to get him to do his thing, you know, the talk, Texas 101 Jazz. Yeah, before he leaves,
Let me get
And
you
then we can
the.
take a picture behind the sign. Will we have time for that?
Yeah, just
Thanks everybody
let me
for
get a.
watching. Check her out every Friday, Green Gold Lounge on Texas 101 Jams.
The Emerald Hempstead.
Latonya Whittington. Cannabis Report Houston.
Cannabis News. Check me out.
All of them. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for come back in the body in the morning. Until next time, remember you are powerful.
Free the weed. Free the weed. Free the weed.
Alright, so we're gonna do a quick video. You are listening to the Green Gold Lounge on Texas 101 Jams. Or, you know,
You
introduce
just
yourself.
said it. Did you
Yeah,
want me to write it down?
yeah, because Norman's around.
I'm sorry, I don't have it. Okay. You can use that. Here's the I'm trying to beat you wrong. I think I'll get a B or C.
You don't have to, you good, you relax.
I'll hit you up, brother, about the suit, man. We were just talking about that recently. I was like, well, man, I gotta get something. I got a couple, but I'm like, I need something that's gonna fit the way I want it to be.
Got you. And make sure you follow him on his.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'll hit you up when we go.
Can you read it?
Yep, so okay, so this is Derek Rose. You're listening to the Green Gold Lounge on Texas 101
I can hold
This is Derek Rose. I'm running for mayor of Houston. You're listening to Texas 101 Jams. Like, Green Gold Lounge. Forgot that.
Bring all that, okay.
Alright, hold on. Green Gold Lounge. This is Derek Rose. You're listening to the Green Gold Lounge on Texas101Jams.com. Free the weed.
Let me see.
I ain't did what I did.
Yeah, Ren got me saying.
Well, no, what I'm saying is I they videoed it too.
Oh, you said the same thing.
Okay, we're gonna do it one more time.
That makes sense that you would say it.
We're twins.
We gotta marry Free the Weed with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start using those hashtags together.
Together, that's right.
Alright, you ready?
This is Derek Rose, and you're listening to the Green Gold Lounge on Texas101Jams.com.
Thank you.
I'll let you have that
Oh, you let me have okay, come on.
Caleb, can you let Miss Jamaica know we'll be ready for him?
Come on in the picture. Can you take this?
Let Miss Jamaica know we'll be ready for him in about 5
Because I want to
minutes.
I'll send this one to you with the background. Okay. Okay, let's see.
The couple, hang with me.
Yes.
We trying to jam with him.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for coming. Yes, and tell your sister I said hi.
Thank you so much for coming.
Baby, she has a twin, and her twin has long locks. Like the girls. Yes, her twin has long locks.
The mayor, all the candidates.
Yeah, her twin has long locks. Like, she wears, yeah. And she got the same look. So just imagine her, baby. Imagine her with hair like
There's
this.
not, there's not. There's also
Now,
some
like,
council, but I went to church.
Yeah, like
Separate ones
The
are,
mayor said,
well, there's like 20 something city councils. Maybe we do 2 or, I mean, that way it's gonna be a lot bigger. So that's what I was thinking maybe if we did, because like 9 people per mayor, there's probably 20 something city council. And that's our area.
we'll be easy to get some city council.
Yeah, they usually are.
Wait. So if you just go on my Instagram,
I think we would get it.
wait. Right to me?
Yeah, so they might at least want to come out and try to like speak to the crowd. This
Yeah.
crowd because they don't want to look like they're ignoring Invited everybody.
Okay.
But yeah, I sent you that info.
Here you go. She deserves a picture. Why not? She did so much work tonight. Thank you for all your help and everything. It's so beautiful. Oh, you get an action picture, huh? Okay, here's the real one. One more. That's the one. I had that look. All right, so y'all go get the kids. So I wanted to ask about the family, of course, because of course we want to know about the man, you know. So watch the kids while y'all
We don't have any.
We don't have any kids. Where?
You called me and said that you had the kids, right? And you couldn't come to the park. Maybe that was my first mistake. Well, you know, it's so
Not yet.
easier without kids.
Yeah, no,
Y'all had to work very hard.
we got a lot of people in the campaign who are kids, so we're always around a lot of kids. We definitely see how it makes it a little harder.
I get to see what happens first, y'all. You know, Mama telling you, be careful.
I never knew how hard it was for somebody to buy some shoes.
Why you say that, man?
It's hard.
Can you convince him to buy you?
I'm saying just, period.
Oh,
I mean, they'll go out and buy a purse,
oh,
$500. They'll go out and buy, Jordan,
yeah,
2-3 pairs of Jordan.
easy.
They won't buy a pair of quality dresses.
Oh no.
Be like, just like, you go out, you'll see them out in the club popping bottles, but don't even have a quality suit in case you need one.
You're right. The average young dude don't think on that level. They just not to that level. They look at that type of dress code. If you in a business setting, more or less.
Oh, the time is right here, yeah, so. Well, let's get some pictures real quick before we get started. I'm sorry, this is my husband, William. This is James.
Hello, brother.
This
All right,
is
stop it.
Patrick.
Yeah, I want to.
That's him, the suit that you like. Oh, okay, that's him. Oh, yeah, the suit.
Which one?
The blue one that I put.
I guess blue and
Oh, okay.
like stripes.
Oh, yeah.
This is my co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he'll have his his 7 o'clock show.
Yeah, you got a show tonight.
No, Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna co-host from.
Do we even know if you took the picture?
And then I'm gonna have my own show starting in August.
Oh, okay.
Named The Kid
There you go.
on Sunday.
Give me that click.
What's gonna be
Oh, yeah,
next?
smile. I did see
Next night,
smooth with his
Wait.
Oh, he got a couple. I get more. I
Ooh, yeah, so it's gonna be serious subject on that.
Yeah, I'm a very straightforward person. A lot of people say I'm kind of like I say what most people think and don't want to say.
Make one of your topics. Ask the people out there. What you do?
Date or something. I mean, I would. I live that lifestyle.
I did for a while too.
I live that lifestyle about 10 years. And I got out of it when it started turning to where it's something else.
Yeah, I did for a while too.
Like when I was there, it was cool. It wasn't a lot of people. It was, you know,
You had
real
private
couples.
communities,
Yeah, it was.
And it just went to a whole nother level now.
Right. Oh yeah. And I seen that happen.
I usually.
I'm Jamaican, so on Sunday.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That's cool. Okay, so let me get it. See, I won't mess up your name. I'm sorry. James.
No, because I was riding in the truck and I'm like, what is going on with this camera? I'm like,
She didn't show me what watch. She didn't even